Hey there, Knicks fans. How you doing? It's your boy, Jonathan Macri, coming at you with another episode of the Knicks Film School Podcast. The excitement is coursing through my veins, as I hope it is yours. And that's not just because we are on the precipice of, well, who knows what. But it's coming. It's coming down the pike. It's here. It is also because I am looking at just the most handsome young face in show business, not even just Knicks niche podcasting, in all of show business. This is a face made for Hollywood, and I get to look at it every Sunday here, coming at you on a Monday. You're lucky if you get to watch this on YouTube, by the way. Jeremy Cohen. Can you tell how excited I am today?
Very, but I was expecting you to do a detour and then say Andrew because he has a fresh haircut and be like, oh, and Jeremy's also here. And I appreciate the fact that you didn't go that direction, but Andrew does also have a face for Hollywood. So look at us, 3 Kings, 3 wise men, hopefully not James Wiseman on the Knicks, just finagling everything.
Can I ask you an honest question?
Sure.
I apologize because I should probably know this. That Wiseman trade thing, that's just like internet. That's not like sourced or anything, right?
No, it was just
internet bullshit. Okay,
yes,
that's great. We don't need to talk about it anymore. I just wanted to make sure because I saw somebody at some point when I was doing my 5 minutes of scrolling per day, refer to it as a rumor. I'm like, what? What's happening?
No.
Okay, thank you. By the way, if you're listening to this and you don't know what I'm talking about, good for you. Better off staying in the dark. So obviously today, this episode's coming at you on a Monday. The draft is happening in 3 days. Free agency is happening in about a week. Madness is about to ensue. There was an Athletic article dropped with Bradley Beal things and trade things and draft things, and but of course we are going to spend today talking all about Frank Ntilikina's injury, which kept him out of the Olympics. No, I'm kidding. We're going to talk about the draft because the draft is well, let me ask you this, Jeremy, before I say what actually we're going to do today, which is run through a bunch of fake trades, or more particularly what the Knicks could do with their picks and in terms of trading with other teams in the draft. How do I phrase this? Do you think this draft is a big deal for the Knicks?
Sure. I think anytime, that what we've seen so far is several years where the Knicks have not been able to capitalize on the draft. And the one time for a while, it seemed they then traded that player. And I think that was ultimately the right decision. But, we're basically looking at the fact that the last consistent draft pick for this team essentially was 2019. And that was 2 drafts ago. So looking at other teams and how they've hit on picks, and it's great that the Knicks were able to do that seemingly last year. But moving forward, you have to at least hit singles or doubles.
Well, you're talking about their first rounder in 3 of the first 4 drafts.
Yes.
I think, because I think some people would argue that Emmanuel Quickley and Mitchell Robinson are pretty good.
Yes. Last year I was thinking about in terms of, I was thinking of Obi and Emmanuel Quickley for last year, but yes, Mitch was in the second round, of course. Yeah. But I guess I had more first round picks in mind because the second rounds are just a lot of times they're home run swings. You don't have to take a home run swing, but the randomness is far more varied, whereas it's a lot less so in terms of the expected outcome for players in the first round. Yeah.
And I think that if you lined up the fact that they had 4 straight top 10 picks and they got, at this point, one, I don't know what the current over-under is on RJ Barrett All-Star appearances in his career. 2.5? Is that low? I forget.
I said mine was 6.5.
You said yours was 6.5.
I'll stick with that.
Okay, fine. Let's split the difference and say 4. Okay. Kevin Knox, Frank Ntilikina. I don't know what those over-unders are, but I could wager a guess.
Are they negative?
Can you have a negative All-Star appearance?
I think they made it possible. At least Kevin Knox possible.
What's the opposite of an all-star? Let's see. I'll dwell on that. And then Obi, we'll see what happens with Obi. But no, I think that's well said. I don't know. It almost feels like there's some big stuff that could happen at the top of the draft, which obviously does not concern us. And then after you get past the guys, which are theoretical franchise changers, whether there's 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 of those guys, probably more like 7. This seems like much ado about nothing, where there's like a lot of, as is the case every year, there's a lot of smoke billowing. But it's like a group of 15 or so guys, and some are going to be okay and some are going to be not okay, and maybe 1 or 2 are going to be really good, but I don't know. But I think the draft is important, and I think it's important that they come out of this with some NBA talent. Is that fair to just say that? Is that too low of a bar? I mean,
it shouldn't be. But if you look at the range, and this is why I think we're also seeing reports of the Knicks trying to trade up, which
there were 2 such reports today, by the way.
Yes,
on Sunday, I should say.
The expected outcome of players that are taken 19th, 21st in that range, it's not great. It's actually from 16 to 24. It's usually pretty bad. So it can vary, obviously, but the idea of trying to get into the lottery, the back end of the lottery, as we're seeing, there are much more possibilities there. And the question, of course, which we will broach, is how the Knicks can get up there. Another question will be what teams are willing to move down, and what are the assets that the Knicks have in order to be able to make all of that happen.
Yeah, and so what we're going to do basically is we're going to go from pick 31, because as for anybody who doesn't know, the Knicks have 19, 21, 32, and then 58. 58, no offense, Jeremy, is going to be the redheaded stepchild of this conversation. We're not really going to worry about 58 today.
Harsh, but fair.
You should have worn a shirt that said 58. That would be funny.
No, I'm wearing a psychedelic Cookie Monster shirt instead.
Okay, so I hope whoever gets picked 58th on Thursday night is wearing that same T-shirt. We should send it to him. It'd be appropriate. Yes. Anyway, but I digress. But we're going to go from pick 31 all the way up until this conversation ceases to be useful, and talk about ways that the Knicks can potentially move up from their respective picks. Again, starting with 31. Some of these will be shorter conversations. Maybe a couple of them will be a little bit longer. And we're going to see what we can come up with. Anything else before we actually get started on this?
This is something that I've been eager to do for a while, and it keeps getting pushed back because of more cap or no caps. So,
which is finally done.
Thank God. Yes. But I love doing it, but I'm glad it's done. But anyways, it's the sort of thing where it's actually now timed perfectly. So
yeah,
I'm excited to do it.
That's what I wanted to mention. As you're pulling up the this week's PowerPoint, which of course I wait on bated breath, there were a couple of reports over the weekend about some specific teams maybe looking to jockey position. If it's relevant to the conversation, we'll mention those rumors and how it might impact the Knicks' attempts to make some moves.
That we will.
All right.
So here we are.
NBA
draft partners.
This is so professional.
I know. I was thinking that too. I was like, this is really business. I feel like I'm going in to do a presentation, but I was like, screw it. There's too much here, because the formatting was tough for this one. So it's not as funny as maybe the other ones, or amusing, but
I like it.
So thank you.
Listen, the draft is serious business.
It is.
It's fine.
Exactly. So of course, our first team that we're talking about is Oklahoma City. They hold the 31st pick. They obviously hold other picks in the draft too, but we'll focus on 31 for right now.
Yes.
OKC basically, and for those listening, I have laid out 3 things per slide: cap outlook, draft pick status, and negative contracts. So in terms of the cap outlook, the Thunder are so set for a while, it doesn't even matter. Yeah. They're just well below the salary floor, similar position to where the Knicks are at. And they own so many picks that it doesn't even matter. And they have one negative contract. Yeah. It's Kemba Walker, who is on the hook for 2 years and $73 million. And basically they're already talking about ways to reroute him somewhere that he'll want to be. And they could hold on to him and it doesn't even matter.
Which, by the way, they did once already with a guy we just saw in the NBA Finals. And part of the reason, cap money is, or they spare no expense, is because they were able to take on that Kemba Walker contract, which is a little bit of additional money from Al Horford.
Exactly. So, unless the Knicks were to purchase this pick outright, which I don't see them doing, this is kind of just, okay, on to the next one sort of thing. So I don't expect the Knicks to have pick 31 in the draft.
No. No, does not really make sense to move up from 32 to 31. Okay, Next up, 30.
The Utah Jazz. So
former trade partner from last year with
Indeed.
Oh my God, I can't remember the man's name. Ed Davis?
Yes.
Ed did. Okay.
Well, yes. But it was 23 for 27 on 38. No,
Yes.
and then the Ed Davis was a separate trade. That's what it was. They did two trades.
Two trades coming off with the Jazz. Okay,
Ed Davis netted 3 second-round picks. It's amazing, and
God
he was
bless
terrible.
that man.
So, yeah, seriously. But the Jazz are going to be in the luxury tax again, which means they're susceptible to the repeater tax, and they have to re-sign Mike Conley. Donovan Mitchell's going to be on a new contract. There's a reason why we were seeing a report today, which I don't really buy, but the idea of Joe Ingles being available, I just don't see them doing that.
Just for a general thing, when you see reports of teams like the Jazz that they're like, oh, Joe Ingles is like on the table or whatever, is on the block, whatever your terminology is, you have to go the extra mental step. You can't be like, oh, great, they're looking to trade Joe Ingles. Let's go, inherit Joe Ingles' contract. If you're a team like the Jazz and you're giving up Joe Ingles, who's a pretty good player, they're going to want a good player in return for Joe Ingles, probably someone better than Joe Ingles, or potentially someone very good, but maybe costs a little bit less. So as we maybe breeze past guys like this who you may have heard in rumors, don't think that it's not because we wouldn't like to have these players. It's just practically speaking, it may not make sense for there to be a trade between the teams.
Right. It's not, hey, let's just take Joe Ingles into our cap space because the Jazz want to save money. It's no, we have a good player. We might want to save some money, but we also want to trade a fan favorite for someone who's good, not just dumping his salary. The Jazz, their pick situation's okay. I mean, they owe a protected pick to Memphis due to the Mike Conley trade, but otherwise their picks for the next 2 or so, at least years, are going to be around in the, 23, 24 and above range. And in terms of negative contracts, I really don't think there are too many on the books for the Jazz, unless you count Rudy Gobert, which I wasn't even going to bother putting him there because he's not going anywhere.
No.
But they do have Derrick Favors. And the reason I say Derrick Favors question mark, because he does have 2 years and $20 million remaining, but the second year is a player option. So it's a sort of thing where
that's a player option.
It is. So if you're the Knicks and you're trying to think of, okay, well, what is our short term? What is our long term future? All of that. Do we feel comfortable with the idea of Favors opting in? I believe he just turned 30. So he would be entering the market at 31 versus 32. I don't know if he'll get mid-level exception money again, but it is interesting just based on, obviously, you could talk about Johnny O'Brien, or Johnny Bryant, Johnny O'Brien. Once a Knick, always a Knick. Also shout out Vincent Poirier for, once a Knick, always a Knick, single-handedly taking down the U.S. men's national team today. But for Derrick Favors, it's at least Walt Perrin, where he didn't draft Favors because he came over in the Darren Williams trade, but it was his rookie year. Perrin always evaluates a lot of talent. He's the type of guy who's really, he's good around the basket and finishing. He's great offensive rebounder. He could fit a lot of what the Knicks try to do, but he's not that defensive presence that the Knicks would really crave. But for a backup, they just took Udoka Azubuike last year. So there's reason to believe if they were cutting costs and wanted to get down a little bit more, pawning off Favors somewhere would make sense. But at the end of the day, Ryan Smith is a billionaire who was a Jazz fan growing up. It's his childhood team. I don't think they'll try to, be too frugal in this sense, but if there's someone to go, my money would be on Favors.
And more importantly, I think at this stage of his career, Derrick Favors and Taj Gibson it's like the Spider-Man meme. It's like they're both guys who once upon a time were power forwards. Now they're backup centers. If you assume that Taj Gibson is amenable to coming back for the same thing he played for last year, which is the veteran minimum, then you would have to be really incentivized if you're the Knicks to take on Favors for what could potentially be, an extra, $17 million if you're going over the 2 years. So yeah, I don't see a match there, despite the fact that these teams obviously did business last year.
The only thing I could think of is if the Knicks and the Jazz traded 30 for 32 and cash. And the only reason I'm thinking that is because if the Jazz say, we don't want a first round contract, because the difference between the first round and the second round, first round, it's 4 years guaranteed. Second round, it isn't. And it's a cheaper rookie scale. So maybe the Jazz say, hey, well, we could get some cash and we could probably draft the same player at 32 as we would at 30. And we don't have to pay them as much. So that's the only thing I could think of with the Jazz and the Knicks working on a deal for the second year in a row. But otherwise, I don't see that playing out that way.
Yep. No, I would agree. Okay. So next up, 29.
Phoenix Suns. So Phoenix financially is fine next year. Even with Chris Paul, they are in a good spot. The question with Phoenix, as we've talked about before, is the year after, when you have Ayton and Bridges and Booker and potentially Paul and all these other players on the books, what you do then. But for right now, I mean, the Suns basically have a protected pick. It's a 2022 pick that's protected, that's going to Oklahoma City Thunder from the Chris Paul trade. They just really, in my opinion, have one not good contract, and it's Dario Saric, 2 years, $20 million, all guaranteed because he tore his ACL.
Yeah, that's unfortunate for him. There is history also with Tibbs there, so because Saric was part of the return for the Jimmy Butler trade when Minnesota sent him to Philly. I'm not sure if they didn't have that much time together. It was like 30 games.
He did bench Saric from what I recall. I don't think Saric likes that much.
It didn't. I recall something about the same thing.
And the one thing that I read, I believe, beginning of the season, off season, it might have been beginning of the season, where Saric's dad actually spoke and said he thinks the reason why Saric was thriving in Phoenix is all the other places he was playing, the climate wasn't agreeing with him. And Phoenix is no, seriously. And Phoenix is much more like Croatian climate than anything he had before in Philadelphia or Minnesota, certainly. So that seemed to suit him better. If you're trading him to a place like New York in a salary dump, that's just going to be the same thing climate wise as it was before. So, yeah, I mean, he doesn't have control of where he goes. It's just something to consider where, okay, you're probably losing a whole season of him. And then you've got another guaranteed year. It's just not of interest to me to do that type of move.
Yeah, no, I think that, and plus, if there's one position that we think the Knicks are pretty set at, it's at the 4. So again, really, this would be taking on, again, it's one thing if you take on quote unquote bad money, which again, we'll maybe get to some more amenable bad money later on in the discussion. But if it's money that you really don't have room for in your rotation, that's like a different story. So next up, we got the Philadelphia 76ers. Talk to me about Philly, Jeremy.
So Philly's a little weird, John. They could either be above.
Are they now?
Yes. They could be above the tax line or below it, depending on how they move around. They've got, they could re-sign Danny Green. They could guarantee George Hill's contract. They could figure out a way to get Ben Simmons off the books and maybe take in less money. So how they do it is very perplexing. They do have a protected pick to send to Oklahoma City at some point because of the Al Horford trade. But other than that, they have all their first round picks. So it's just a matter of how that obstacle kind of gets in the way. But in terms of the contracts, Ben Simmons has 4 years and $140 million left on his deal. Tobias Harris has 3 years and $115 million. I don't really buy this belief that Ben Simmons and the Sixers, a report came out today, I believe, that the Sixers would hold on to Ben Simmons, try to rehab his value. I just don't buy it. I think that if you look at Joel Embiid's knees and you say we've got maybe 3 or 4 years where we can go all in, you're not going to spend half or a full year of that trying to make an experiment work a little better when it's not going to work better. You can hope that leads to a better talent, but at the end of the day, I'd rather worry more about time than trying to rehab Simmons's value a little bit more to the point where maybe he pushes the envelope just a tad. I'd rather just do the trade if I'm Philly, and I think they would. Yeah,
I wonder. I mean, and plus, depending on how much you believe the internet, which obviously you always should, with his name already being bandied about in trade discussions, I just wonder how easy it would be to bring him back. I'm with you. I see him kind of going this summer as well. In terms of a possible trade with the Sixers, maybe, there's probably some craziness where the Philly is like I'm just trying to think outside the box here. If the Knicks got in on a 3 or 4 team trade involving Ben Simmons, where the Knicks wouldn't be getting Ben Simmons back, he'd be going to some other team, but maybe said team, wants a higher first round pick this year than 28. I wonder if that would be a way for the Knicks to get their hands on Maxey, but that's, who the hell knows?
Yeah.
That's the only thing from their roster that I could really see. But that doesn't really involve this pick anyway. So, okay, let's move on.
Yeah. Don't think there's much here.
No.
27. Oh, speaking of not much here is the Brooklyn Nets. So the Nets are going to be a tax team. Houston controls Brooklyn's picks for the foreseeable future outside of kind of this year. And they've got one bad contract. It's DeAndre Jordan for 2 years and $19 million, I think. Although he might be expiring actually now that I think. I think he signed a 4-year deal.
It was definitely a 4-year deal, and I'm pretty sure there was no options, which I will confirm right now. And also, we should note there was a report that came out today. No options, just 2 years, 18 left.
So for context, the Knicks and the Nets have not made a trade with one another since before either of us was born. The Nets are not trading DeAndre Jordan to the Knicks. The Knicks are not taking DeAndre Jordan. We're done here. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, no, I would. But this pick is probably going to be on the move. They've traded as it was noted today in one of the columns that came out, they've traded their first round pick in each of the last 2 years. They're looking for win now talent. But again, the Knicks don't really have any win now talent that they could send to Brooklyn, nor would they want to, as you just noted. All right.
And I'm sure, just quickly, I'm also sure maybe someone's listening to this and thinking, well, what about Joe Harris? The Nets like Joe Harris. He had a really bad playoffs. I just, spending money isn't the problem for Brooklyn. They just have to avoid getting hard capped, which they can do. It's just, he's not going to be moved. There really aren't pieces that need to go like that. So,
yep.
Yeah, cool. 26, the Denver Nuggets. The Nuggets are over the cap, and likely so with having to re-sign Will Barton, assuming that gets done. He opted out of his contract, which was for $14 million. So clearly he's looking to re-sign for something in that range. Denver owes protected first-round picks to Oklahoma City and Orlando as well. And in my mind, they have one contract that's borderline negative, and that's Jamal Murray. I'm
insulted for Jamal Murray. They should put his name on this list.
A fourth of this contract is going to be him injured or rehabbing from the injury. I still think that he's wildly overpaid, but I understand why he received that contract, so I get it. But, at the end of the day, I still think that the Nuggets need one more thing, which is why if you talk about a Beal trade, it might make more sense for them with the Wes Unseld Jr. and they have some other front office executive connections, and maybe Michael Porter Jr. is on the move. Maybe they throw picks. There are things that can be done here, but I just, I don't think Jamal Murray at that price point can necessarily be your second best player. I think the bubble, what he did was fantastic, but I just, I don't think it's quite as translatable.
No, I'm a bigger fan of Murray than you, but I will say that this is like starting to get close to the range where I could see the Knicks wanting to actually move down from 19 or 21 to pick up an additional asset. But again, you have to have two to tango. And why would the Nuggets, who are looking to win a championship right now, why would they give up one of their future assets to move up, that many spots? And I don't see it with this team. Maybe one of the other teams we're going to get to before we get to 21.
Right.
So let's go on to 25th pick in the draft, which is owned by
the Los Angeles Clippers.
Again, someone the Knicks have done deals with.
Yes, indeed. So barring Kawhi Leonard signing elsewhere, the Clippers will be well above the cap and the luxury tax. Similar with other teams we've mentioned, like Brooklyn, the Clippers owe all of their picks elsewhere. It's going to go to Oklahoma City. Surprise, surprise. So in terms of negative contracts, Marcus Morris, question mark, 3 years, $49 million remaining. Patrick Beverley, 1 year, $14 million. Serge Ibaka, 1 year, $9.7 million player option. So I guess let's start with Marcus Morris. Again, the reason I put a question mark is I think they'll keep Morris, especially if Kawhi's out for as long as we believe he will be. It's pretty important to remain on that team. The Clippers, and this touches on with Beverley as well, the Clippers are not in the business to dump salary. Steve Ballmer is the richest NBA owner. The pandemic has only made him wealthier.
Yeah.
He doesn't care about paying more in luxury taxes. The question is, can Patrick Beverley get you another player who's better? Not, do we have to dump Patrick Beverley's salary outright when it probably won't impact whether we can get below the luxury or the tax apron regardless.
So what I'm thinking in terms of Beverley more than Ibaka, because again, Ibaka plays a position that the Knicks seem to have pretty well taken care of. Patrick Beverley plays a position that the Knicks have a bit of need at. And no, he is not I don't know what you want to say.
He's not a Tibbs point guard, that's for sure.
Well, no, he's not, for as much as he plays hounding defense, and I'm sure Tibbs would love that. And he could also shoot. So it's interesting to me, if Tibbs went away from his comfort zone, which is having a point guard who relentlessly drives, which Patrick Beverley does not do, and the Knicks were even more committed to running the offense this year fully through RJ Barrett and Julius Randle, I think you could do worse than having Patrick Beverley be your big air quotes nominal starting point guard and effectively play 20 minutes a night, 20 to 25 minutes a night, whereas Derrick Rose is the one really doing the heavy lifting. But I don't think the Knicks are about to take on 1 year and $14 million of Patrick Beverley for nothing. So is there a world where the Knicks move up from 32 to 25 and take Patrick Beverley and send Kevin Knox? And here, I'll give you one more part of this pitch. This is a 3-team deal because, again, as you said, the Clippers are not looking to dump salary, and they're not going to want to downgrade for a pick. So maybe there's a team out there that they're trying to work like a sign and trade with, the Clippers, and that team does not want to take on Beverley. So the Knicks inherit Beverley, and that said team does not have to take on that salary. It makes the deal more feasible. Do you see where I'm going with that?
I do. You just those teams have to be careful because of the sign and trade that you're discussing, where that would be technically illegal. That'd be the Bogdanovich territory, because you can't describe you can't try to finagle a sign and trade before the new year starts.
Yes.
So that could be problematic. I agree. I think if there's a way for Patrick Beverley to be involved in a trade, it is a 3-team deal, at least with it being with the Knicks, because 2-team, the Clippers are going to say, we don't want what the Knicks have. And the Knicks are going to say, well, we don't view Beverley for the cost that you do.
It wouldn't be a 2-team deal. It would be a 3-teamer. Yeah, for sure. I don't know. I'm going to keep that one in the back of my mind.
I think you can find similar talent to Patrick Beverley for, just cap space as opposed to finagling that. And I also don't know if they would necessarily see it as we're giving up Beverley and 25 and getting 32 in return. I just don't know. It's hard to pinpoint what his value is in their mind, but I think it's a little bit more positive than that.
It may very well be. Okay, let's move on to the next one.
So next are the Houston Rockets. They have the 24th and the 23rd picks in the first round. And
we should mention that there was a report today that they are looking to package these picks and potentially one of the Nets' future firsts to get into the lottery, which does have some Knick implications because Bobby Marks, whose word should obviously be taken as gospel, opined on Twitter today that they are unlikely to get up into the lottery with 23, 24, and a future Nets first, which I don't know if that means the Knicks with 19 and 21 wouldn't be able to get up into the lottery. I think 19 and 21 have maybe somewhat significantly more value than 23, 24 and a future 28th pick. that said, what we could take away from this at the moment is that the Rockets are looking to move these picks.
Yes, I definitely think, though, that 19 and 21 has more weight. 19 to 24 is a pretty steep drop. It may not seem like it, but it is. And, the Rockets project to be below the salary cap next year. They're going to be a bad team.
Yep. They're in the Dame rumor, so who knows?
Allegedly, yes.
Allegedly.
They do. They own a lot of Brooklyn picks, of course. They own a future protected Detroit pick, and they owe Oklahoma City a future protected first round pick as well.
Yep.
This is where it's just get a little bit more interesting. So for negative contracts, the first one is
Why'd you do this?
Well,
why'd you write his name?
I had to. John Wall, 2 years, $91 million left. The second year is a player option. Eric Gordon, 3 years, $58 million remaining. The last year's non-guaranteed. DJ Augustine, 2 years, $14 million. Second year, non-guaranteed. Let's start with Wall. I want nothing to do with Wall. I don't like the contract.
You don't say.
I don't like the injuries. I don't like the fact that he really does not play off ball very well. All of these things, and you could point to Kentucky and Worldwide West and the fact that the Knicks need a point guard, and it just doesn't matter. He's not. This isn't the type of deal. You first of all, you wouldn't be able to execute this, on draft night. So you'd have to then push it all the way towards the other, to after the cap year. Yeah. But it's essentially what we talked about with Kevin Love last week, but worse, because what is the asset that you're getting here, right? It's maybe 24 and or 23. That's not worth it in a million years. So it doesn't make sense to me whatsoever.
Here's the trade. It's 19, 21, OB, and 2 future firsts for the second pick in the draft, and John Wall.
Yes, that's the same thing. That's the only move that you consider if you're the Knicks, and the Rockets are not going to do that.
Yeah, no, the Rockets are not going to do
Knicks, that. So it doesn't matter. But yes.
Sorry, folks.
Eric Gordon, similar situation.
Who apparently the Rockets think of as a positive contract because there was a report today that they're looking to use Eric Gordon to move up. Yeah, anyway, sorry.
It's not going to happen.
No, that's not going to happen. Sorry.
So that's really it. And then we come to really one of my favorite potential trades.
Oh boy.
DJ Augustine. So he's only got $7 million for next year, give or take. But then here's where it gets really interesting. So yes, that the year after, the third year of his contract, but he's already spent one of them, is non-guaranteed.
Okay.
So the way it works is it's only guaranteed for $333,333. So here's the beauty of it. If you're the Knicks, you go after Houston, you call them up and say, listen, we know that you're in the saving money game, Tillman, and we want to work with you here.
You cheap fuck.
Exactly. And we know that John Wall is your starting guard, and we know that you're probably going to have Jalen Green as well. So you don't really need DJ Augustine.
Well, by the way, Augustine, for anybody, Augustine was the tax on the Tucker trade, which enabled Houston to get a future first.
He was the salary filler.
Yes, he was the salary filler in the deal. Right. So for anybody who looks like, maybe Houston wants DJ. No, Houston does not want DJ Augustine.
No. So basically, you call up Houston and say, what about 32 for 24 or 23? And we take on DJ Augustine. And here's the beauty of it. With DJ Augustine, you don't have to worry about salary matching because the Knicks still have $9 million right now to spend. So you're absorbing.
So you can do it before the... Okay.
Right. And the thing is, you don't necessarily have to worry about roster spots as much because of the fact, and the Celtics just explained why, when they traded Kemba Walker and took on Moses Brown and Al Horford, they are now at 16 players. So the Knicks would be at 16 players as well. So if you had to circumvent it, you could always, send back Norvell Pell, for example, or do something of the sort. Bottom line here being that with DJ Augustine, you can do whatever you want, right? You could keep him because you feel like you're not going to do much in free agency. And, he's 33 years old, so I wouldn't call him more than a backup point guard at this point. But the fact is that if you needed to have him and you strike out on all your other options, like Again, the baseline. If it's still Elfrid Payton, he's above that. You could try to trade him. You could use him as matching salary in some way, or you could just flat out waive him. Right? If you don't need him, you could waive him if you wanted.
I think Tibbs would listen.
I don't think that would happen though. But the one thing I'll add is that if the Knicks do wind up keeping DJ Augustin and they don't trade him down the line as salary or whatever, and you have that only $333,333 guaranteed, if you need to create more room, you can just stretch that contract, and it's only $111,111 for the next 3 years, which is like nothing. So it's a sort of thing where, to me, he is the perfect vehicle where it's like one man's trash is another man's treasure, and you get to jump up 8 to 9 spots in the draft.
One man's trash is another man's trash.
It's true.
But the man is wearing gloves, and the man just came from a toxic landfill.
And he's got like a nice plastic Kings,
sure,
crown on him, if you will. I've
listened to Conspiracy Bill for years on the Bill Simmons podcast. We're going to do Conspiracy John here. Kevin Knox's agent is Aaron Turner. Aaron Turner, up until recently, represented Victor Oladipo, who was also until recently a member of the Houston Rockets, which is to say, Aaron Turner has had some dealings with the Houston Rockets. Might Aaron Turner want to see his client, Kevin Knox, in a situation where he could get a little bit more playing time? Like on a tanktastic 2021-22 Houston Rockets team. I wonder if there isn't something whereby the Knicks take on Augustine, send out Knox, so the Knicks are only taking on, because Knox makes like $5.8 million this year.
Yes.
Yeah. So the Knicks are only taking on $1 million.
Right.
And what's the trade?
See, I've had this thought before, right? I was thinking, okay, what if the Knicks are sending back Knox as well? The only thing I'm thinking of is, if you're Houston, is your goal to save more money, or is it to get a flyer on a player like Kevin Knox when you already have 3 first-round picks in the top 24?
So here's what I'm thinking. They don't want to have 3 first-round picks. They are clearly looking to package these. So the Knicks take 24, stay with me and wait until I finish. Send 19 to Houston. So now Houston has 19 and 23 that they could package to move up into the late lottery to get this elusive player that they apparently want in the late lottery. And the Knicks get a future first from Houston, one of the Brooklyn picks.
But that doesn't really interest me. And honestly, I don't think that that's what the Knicks are going for, seeing as how they keep trying to move up.
It adds to the treasure trove.
But what does that really add? It's if we're talking about Brooklyn,
it's like first round pick that they could toss into a trade for, whoever you want to talk about.
How much value is there really in that pick? We're talking right now about Houston. They can't even package 24 and 23 to move up with a future Brooklyn pick. So why would that pick be of that much more value if... You know what I'm saying? I just don't think I think that if you're the Knicks, basically what you're doing is you're doing quantity over quality. And I often really don't like that, because I think if you can find the better quality further up in the draft versus like, look at my treasure trove of assets, it doesn't do a whole lot for you.
I would counter with the fact that if the Knicks got a future first in the right year, it could further allow them to get around the Stepien rule, because having multiple firsts in one year allows you to trade firsts in consecutive years, which, for instance, they could now, as it stands, trade 2022, 23, 24 first round picks because they have 2 picks in 23. So if they got a first in the right year, that's an extra first. I
get it, but they can also figure out ways around it as well, similar to how Houston and Milwaukee just figured out a way around it, where Houston swapped their early second round pick with Milwaukee's late first round pick. And that's how they wound up with the 24th pick in the draft. So,
which they were able to do because that's very close. They did that trade. It's like several months before this draft. So there was kind of an idea of where those picks were going to be. There was less risk.
I'll put it this way. I am much more intrigued by the idea of moving up twice, which the Knicks did. No, they only did it once last year. But the idea of moving up twice in the draft versus moving back and then getting a pick later on, because I don't think that the Stepien rule is necessarily going to matter as much because they have so much control of future picks and whatnot. It's really right now that I'm a little bit more focused on, and I'd rather focus on a higher, pushing up. So it's 2 first-round picks and DJ Augustin than, walking away with 2 first-round picks, DJ Augustin, but those are worse picks.
Last thing I'll say, Houston is going to receive the most favorable of, so they're going to get 2 first-round picks next year. It's going to be the 2 most favorable of their pick, Brooklyn's pick, and Miami's pick. Obviously, their pick is going to suck, or is rather be very good because they're going to suck. If you're the Knicks, do you bet that either Brooklyn, due to injury potentially, or Miami, due to the fact that like this year they were like a mediocre team, is just like one of those teams get you something like the 20th pick next year? And like, it's basically a way for them to take on $1 million for a player that you probably want more than Kevin Knox if I was a betting man, and you basically trade the 21st pick in this year's draft to get what you hope is going to be something like the 20th pick in next year's draft.
Okay, well, what about this? What about the idea of if the Knicks do something similar, if they did Kevin Knox and 32 for Augustine and 24, and then as a result, they tried to get swapping rights next year? Or something along those lines. I just
don't think the Knicks would want, because then the Knicks would be left with 19, 21, and 24. And again,
right, which I don't think that
I don't think they want. You don't think they want either.
But that's why I'm saying, I think we're in agreement that the Knicks are not going to have 3 picks in this, walk away 3 picks in this draft anyway.
100%. Yeah, they're looking to send off a pick. Yeah.
Right. So if you're going to do that, then you have more flexibility to, do 19 and 21, try to push up. Maybe you can add more to it. And then you still have that 24th pick or so. So it's like, okay, the guy that we really wanted in that 21 range, but we couldn't do it. Like, I want him at 24. I think we could still get him there. And the guy we're trying to leapfrog in order to, maybe it's Golden State or whomever. Like, we can still get that guy and we can get a player here. That's what I think the thinking is more of, just pushing up and using that cap space.
Perhaps. There's also last thing, and then our producers telling us to move on politely. If there is a deal to be had, and again, Cleveland apparently wants to win now, so who knows, where you're sending 19 and 21 or 19 and 32 and Obi or whatever for Colin Sexton, maybe this is a way for just the Knicks to get back into the first round if they do send multiple picks elsewhere. Okay, let's move on. 22nd pick in the draft, the pick right after the Knicks are scheduled to pick. Who is this? The Lakers. What do we think about the Lakers?
I mean, they could be a tax team, but that probably also depends on Schroeder. They've got unprotected and protected picks that are headed to New Orleans. And at the end of the day, they've got what I think are negative contracts. It seems that teams actually like the Kyle Kuzma deal, 3 years and $39 million. I don't like it for the Knicks, but other teams do.
I don't either.
Bully for them. Trez has a 1-year, $9.7 million player option, which he either takes or he doesn't. I think he's going to opt in because I think the market looks like crap, but I wouldn't be surprised if he opted out and tried to find something similar and blamed on the situation. And then I put Marc Gasol. I don't think he's a bad contract per se, but clearly the writing seems to be on the wall for him.
Yeah.
And if there's a player that, if the Lakers wanted to work out something, maybe the Knicks acquire him in some capacity and absorb him, and then they could even release him if that's what he wants. Because I don't think he would necessarily be the target the Knicks would want at the center position. So, and even if that were the case, I don't really know what the trade would look like.
Yeah, I don't think these two are natural trade partners. Unless the Lakers were working out some kind of a sign and trade with another team, where that other team was also up against it and they really didn't want to take on that little bit of extra salary, and the Knicks could inherit Gasol. But again, that would be occurring in the next league year. And I don't see it. Okay. Knicks are at 21. So the team that sits between the Knicks 19th and 21st picks is, of course, your Atlanta Hawks. What do we got for Atlanta?
Atlanta's a little unusual because they could either keep John Collins or not. If I had to guess, he's going to get a max offer somewhere because there are enough teams that see him as a talented player and think Atlanta won't match. And I think it's very possible that they don't. So, if that happens, they're going to be under the salary cap, which means that they'll have cap space. If they match or come to an agreement, they'll be over the cap. They're essentially at pick equilibrium for the first round. So pretty much have all their first round picks in terms of sending out and whatnot. And in terms of negative contracts, is Danilo Gallinari considered a negative contract? The second year left is the last year of his deal is non-guaranteed. And then there's Chris Dunn, who's got a 1-year, $5 million player option, which I think he played in 4 games this year. Yeah. So he's going to opt into that.
And Tibbs, don't forget, traded away Chris Dunn after his rookie year in the Jimmy Butler trade. Probably no love lost there, but you never know. I don't think the Chris Dunn is what the Knicks need. Okay.
The only thing I think of is the rumor about the Hawks wanting to offload one of their younger players because of committing to them moving forward. I wouldn't necessarily want Herter or Reddish at 21 or 19, but I could potentially see the Knicks selling it as, hey, we added quality talent that's proven and all we have to do is pay them eventually. Although again, is Cam Reddish really quality talent?
I would kill to get your son here on the Knicks.
My son or my brother?
Brother, cousin,
Kevon?
Yes. Kevon.
Again, he's also owed a salary pretty soon. So I don't know how that fits into their future plans, depending on what they want out of that.
Listen, I want more ginger. I have sushi, not even because I like the taste of fish. It's just because I like the ginger. Really. That's what it's just.
I love how much you've grown in just the last, however long we've been recording. We went from the ugly redheaded stepchild at 58 to wanting more ginger in blue and orange.
But that's how impressive this presentation is.
Thank you.
And on that note, moving on to the 18th pick.
So we have the Thunder.
More Oklahoma City fun. Okay, great.
I packaged 18 and 16 because it just makes more sense.
No, it does make sense.
We talked about it. The Thunder just doesn't fit here. Unless the Knicks try to package 19 and 21 for 16. And I don't see the Thunder wanting that because they already have 3 top 18 picks themselves. Yeah,
it's like the Knicks and the Thunder are kind of like they could be trying to exist on the same corner. So it does this isn't a situation where it's like let's fight each other for the corner. Yeah. So right. Yeah. 17th pick is the Memphis Grizzlies, which we should note have been. It was a report today from someone on the internet that they were trying to get 17, use 17 to move up to 10, take on Eric Bledsoe, which we'll save for our New Orleans conversation. So that's Memphis.
Yeah, Memphis will have cap space. They're likely to decline Justice Winslow's team option, so that works for them. They own all of their future first-round picks, and they have protected pick from Utah as well as from Golden State. And their salary cap it's good. They don't really have any bad contracts.
I think the simplest thing to say here is if the Knicks were just so in love with a player that they were just so convinced that Oklahoma City wanted to grab from them at 18, would they throw 32 with I guess I could throw it with 21 also, but 32 and 21 to move up to 17. Would Memphis have any interest in that? I have no idea, but you never know.
Next, we have the Wizards at 15, since we just did the Thunder at 16. The Wizards, are they the weirdest team entering the draft? I feel like you can make an argument for it.
They probably don't know whether they're coming or going with today's Bradley Beal. Will he request a trade? Won't he request a trade? I don't know. We'll see. Oh my God. Again, you've done it again. You wrote John Wall's name on the PowerPoint, and now you've written another name on the PowerPoint, which I don't want to see. Here it is.
For what it's worth, the Wizards, again, project to enter next season over the cap, and they owe
we'll see.
a protected pick to Houston. Yeah, exactly. We'll see down the line. It's Russell Westbrook, who is a better player than John Wall. But
yes, because the Wizards gave up a first-round pick for the right to
yes.
get him.
But Russell Westbrook is not a candidate for whom I would want on the Knicks once again.
Let's move on, please.
And then it's Davis Bertans, who, that's just not something I really want.
Agree or disagree, this is the floor in terms of the Knicks move 19 and 21 to get to X. I think they're not doing that for... to me, if they did that for 15, it would be a pretty, not a gross, I think it would actually be a gross overpay. They would have to be sure as shit about the guy that they are moving up to get, not only in the fact that player is whatever they think that player is going to be, but also the fact that player is not going to get taken in any of the next several spots. Which,
if you're trading 2 first-round picks to move up really 4 spots from the first pick that you have,
well, it's really 3 spots because the Wizards aren't presumably going to take the player, right? And so it's really just 16, 17, 18.
Yeah, you just have to be absolutely sure that...
And one team has 2 picks between those picks. So it's anyway, sorry. I
don't think anything works here. And then, of course, you have the Warriors. Warriors will be so deep into the luxury tax that they don't even care anymore. Then they have 2 lottery picks this year and owe a future first-round pick to Memphis. Yeah. In terms of negative contracts, it's Andrew Wiggins, 2 years, $65 million remaining. It's Draymond Green question mark at 3 years, trading. $77 million, right? They're not going to trade Draymond. And then it's Kevon Looney question mark, 1 year, $5.1 million. So
Steve Kerr loves Kevon Looney.
Yes. With Wiggins, again, the idea of the Knicks taking on Wiggins' contract, it's almost exactly like the Kevin Love situation that we talked about. And it's just okay, cool. I saw something where it was he's still considered young because he's 26. And I'm just thinking, come on, he's been in the league for 8 years now. We know what he is. It's not going to work with where we're at. It just, to me, and the Warriors aren't going to dump his salary. The only way it would work is if it were a 3-team deal. And then, of course, with Kevon Looney, I've thought in the past maybe the Warriors would be interested, but I don't think they would be. I think even though they need a stretch big, they really love Kevon Looney. He's a leader. He's part of those championship teams. I would honestly be surprised if they moved his salary for nothing in return. And it would save $25 million plus in luxury taxes. And they don't seem to care, since they just spent about $80 million on Kelly Oubre Jr. And that was not a good experiment.
And they could have moved him at the deadline, and they chose not to, even though he's probably going to leave. The thing with Wiggins is this. If you're listening to this and you're like, well, the Knicks should take him on so the third team in a 3-team deal doesn't have to take him on. If Wiggins is going to a third team in a 3-team deal, it's going to be Washington or some other team where the Warriors get a lot better because they're sending Wiggins' salary out and they're getting, I don't know if it's going to be Bradley Beal, if it's going to be Dame Lillard, if it's going to be player X who we haven't thought of. If that team is making that deal, that team is tanking for the next couple of years. They are not going to pay a premium for the Knicks to take on Andrew Wiggins. They're going to get every fucking asset they can, and they're going to deal with Andrew Wiggins for the remaining 2 years, $65 million left on his contract. So that is not going to happen. And I don't want to pay Andrew Wiggins $65 million over the next 2 years any more than you do. I don't know that there's another trade that makes a ton of sense for again, based on the reporting and who the hell knows how much to believe of any of this, it almost seems like this is the pick the Warriors want to keep to take a guy, whether it's a Duarte or a Murphy or whoever, that's going to help them next year. And it seems like 7 is the pick that they're more likely to try to move for what, again, we don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how this trade works. I don't see it. I don't see it.
Agreed. It just doesn't really work here.
Okay. 13.
The Pacers. The Pacers are expected to have no cap space. They have all of their draft picks moving forward, and they don't have any bad contracts. So the real question is, would the Pacers be interested in trading 13 for 19 and 21? I mean, if I'm Indiana, I don't know if I do that.
I don't think so either, especially since, so again, all the reporting from this offseason, not to mention the fact that they hired a coach that you'd think would like to do some winning sooner rather than later. They want to win. They want to try to, maximize whatever this, roster is. 13 for 19 and 21 would seem not to be in that vein. Everybody has mocked Davion Mitchell to them for a while because he's theoretically a guy that will come in and play 20 minutes for them and, put that one in the books. I don't see it.
Agreed. 12.
Now we're having some fun.
The Spurs, they have a lot of cap space. They have all their picks, and their only bad contract, in my opinion, is Derrick White. 4 years and $72 million.
We should have made this a 2-part pod. I could have a 20-minute conversation with you about Derrick White not being a negative contract.
Well, let's make it a 30-second one.
It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money for a guy that I don't know what he shot from 3 last year. It wasn't very good. And he was
hurt.
He was hurt also, and I don't think that's the first time he's been hurt since he's been in the league. He's an imperfect player, but he's an interesting player, and he's still pretty young, and he showed some flashes over the course of his time.
Isn't he like 27?
Yes. He's old.
He's not young. He's a young 27.
It is not a value contract. I don't know. I wonder if this is not the conversation to have for right now, but he's a guy that's at least like DeJounte Murray's an obvious one. Like if you could get DeJounte Murray, get DeJounte Murray. But that's you're paying a premium for that. Derrick White, I don't know. I don't think the Spurs would pay a premium to offload Derrick White. Let's just agree on that. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. And also, I don't think the Spurs want to trade with the Knicks either. They seem to. I don't think they do either.
The Spurs don't typically trade.
Period.
They have their first round pick and they take whoever they're going to take. It's fine.
11, Charlotte Hornets. They'll have plenty of cap space, like upwards of $20 million, most likely. They have all their future picks, none coming in. Negative contracts, they're not going to trade Gordon Hayward, even though I don't love that contract.
I hate Terry Rozier, and I'm offended that you put Terry Rozier here.
Well, because the whole thought process, if they wanted to move that deal for something else, they've got Devontae Graham who has to get paid. I don't know if they see someone as better starting caliber, but my guess is they don't. They keep Terry Rozier. He's done good things for them, so I don't think there's any trade here that really works unless. And that's the other thing that in terms of what player, like they're not going to want Obi because they have PJ Washington and they have Miles Bridges, and unless you're trying to deal a big man, but the Knicks aren't trading Mitch to get this pick.
And they've been connected with Miles Turner. They have the money to, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Jeremy, they have the money to beat the maximum that Sacramento can offer Richaun Holmes, because Richaun Holmes is, the Kings are limited with what they could offer Holmes because they don't have cap space, so they need to sign him. We don't need to get into that. Whatever. There's a limit to what they could sign him to. The Hornets could offer him more money. The point is that the Hornets don't need to trade with the Knicks to get like Mitch. The Devontae Graham part of it, a sign and trade involving this pick would veer into the bogey territory that you mentioned before, where it's untoward behavior. I guess there's nothing else here, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
All right, we've entered the top 10 now.
Yes.
So,
there he is.
Cap
all
outlook.
2 years and 37 million of him, baby. Giddy up.
It's complicated for the Pelicans. They could either enter. I mean, they'll probably enter above the salary cap, but they could potentially get below it depending on what they do with Lonzo Ball and Josh Hart. They own all of their future picks. They've got several picks from the Lakers and the Bucks, and there are two real negative contracts. It's Eric Bledsoe for 2 years, $37 million, and it's Steven Adams, 2 years and $35 million. So apparently there are suitors or people who are teams that are interested in Steven Adams. The Knicks should not be one of those teams, and I don't think they're going to
not be one of those teams.
So we can just cross him off the list. Then we get to Eric Bledsoe, and the thing about Bledsoe is his second year is partially guaranteed $3.9 million. If you stretch that amount, it's 1.3 for 3 seasons. So the idea that Bledsoe's contract is abysmal, to me, just isn't true. I think it's fine. The real question is, what are you doing in 2022? Where is that 1.3 million going to hurt you? Can you flip the contract? Can you figure out a way where you even trade a future pick and you're fine with that because, hey, you moved up and got the prospect you wanted. It works out. But at the end of the day, I just as John, you were saying, with the idea of 10 and Bledsoe for 17 with the Grizzlies, that makes a lot more sense for them. I think that actually works pretty well. So, would it be 19 and 21 now for 10 and Bledsoe? At a certain point, when does it get to be too much? I don't really know.
So, for anybody who hasn't seen, there's a ton of smoke about Kyle Lowry to the Pelicans. That can only happen via a sign and trade, which means the Pelicans need to send out money, and then the Raptors would need to sign Kyle Lowry and then send Kyle Lowry to New Orleans under a new contract, which I would imagine if he's going to play in fucking New Orleans, he's going to want the bag. Anyway, so does Toronto want anything to do? Well, let me rephrase that. Does Toronto fall into the category of teams that I just spoke about a moment ago? Teams who are going to be tanking? I don't think so. I don't think Toronto's in the business of tanking. I think regardless of what they do in this draft with the fourth pick, this, that, and the other thing, I think they're going to try to be a decent team next year. I could see them wanting nothing to do with Eric Bledsoe. But at the same time, is Masai Ujiri really going to pay a premium to not have Eric Bledsoe on his team for at least the next year? I don't know. I don't know how much of a premium that would be. Yes, there is the possibility it's just a straight up deal where the Knicks take on Bledsoe and they swap picks. I could see it more being like again, you're not going to like this. You're not going to like this. The Knicks just they send out 21 and take on Bledsoe, and they're not getting back 10. They're getting back a future first, so that's where it gets a little bit interesting to me, because as you mentioned, the Pelicans have all these future firsts from the Lakers. They also have some future firsts from Milwaukee, and they also obviously have all of their own future first round picks. Would the Knicks be interested in a situation where they get some manner of choice between a poo-poo platter of first-round picks in, say, the year 2025? Just throwing it out there.
No comment. Moving on to number 9, please. Go for it. Sacramento Kings. The Kings project to be over the cap, but that really depends on Richaun Holmes, who, as you just said, could go to the Hornets. They have all of their first-round picks and none coming in. Their bad contract, so to speak, are Buddy Hield for 3 years, $62 million. And Marvin Bagley III, 1 year, $11 million. The Kings have reportedly been interested in shopping the pick for veteran help.
But they also want to move Hield, allegedly.
Right. So they're all over the place.
They're all over the map. Shocking.
I know, right? The idea of moving Bagley, I think they'll try to do something in the offseason, not on draft night. Hield, I do think he has value. It's just that's a lot of money. It is a decreasing contract or descending, which is nice. I just don't think New York is necessarily the place for either of these players. And if they were to trade 9 for veteran help, you're looking at RJ Barrett.
Yeah,
first of all, that's not happening. And also it would have to be several Kings picks that would be involved. And then you're talking about Julius Randle, which isn't happening on an even greater scale because that's just not going to do it.
I could see a world where Bagley's obviously his people want to get him out of Sacramento. He wants to get out of Sacramento. That's no secret. I mean, it's 1 year, $11 million. I could see them taking a flyer on that. The Hield thing is a little more interesting to me because I could, it's a tidy little salary. And I think the Knicks, I would bet on the Knicks believing that Hield would look a lot better in New York than he's looked in Sacramento, to the point where a year from now, that remaining 2 years on that contract, which again is descending, would look a lot better. I just don't know how that trade would involve this pick. Again, unless it was some kind of a 3-team deal where 9 would be going out somewhere. Some other team would be sending a decent player back to Sacramento, and the Knicks would be inheriting Hield. But again, who's giving them something for the right to take on Hield? And they're not getting 9. So I don't know what the trade is.
Yes, I agree. I also just want to back up real quick to Bagley. I think that if you have Randall and Obi, you're not going to want Marvin Bagley. And the big reason why there's some concern over getting him is, when you're trading for Marvin Bagley the third, you're also trading for Marvin Bagley the second, and he has been pretty problematic in terms of how outspoken he has been. I think he is basically what people think LeVar Ball is.
Yeah,
but
he is.
But the other thing about him is you're not just taking on a year of him. It's almost like the Colin Sexton situation, because you're basically saying, I have to deal with his next contract. And I have no idea what his next contract is going to be. Like, if Marvin Bagley, it's not just salary filler. I think that the Kings are still going to try to retain something for him.
Yeah, they're not just dumping the former number 2 pick.
And then it's like, well, if you're trying to buy low on him, then that means you definitely need to move Obi out for something else.
You hit the nail on that. You need to, I can't even say this with a straight face. You need to invest in Marvin Bagley if you're trading for Marvin Bagley. Again, that's an absurd thing because he's shown absolutely nothing as an NBA player, which would warrant a team being like, we're going to invest serious time and energy and make it, like, getting that dude right. Like, no, invest in Obi Toppin.
Yes.
The guy who actually wants to, like, work hard and, like, the whole thing. Okay. We're coming down to it because we're getting pretty close to the level where there's probably not going to be anything that could be done. But let's talk about the 8th pick.
Yeah, this is the type of range where I think if you're the Knicks, you have to move up twice, or you have to do something very drastic and dramatic. So the Orlando Magic have 2 picks in the top 8. The first one being 8. They're the offseason. I mean, they're around the salary cap. They have all their future picks and a protected pick from Chicago and from Denver. The really big question in terms of negative contracts is Gary Harris. Which 1 year and $20 million.
And why do they care about moving that? That's
right.
Just, yeah.
You could say Jonathan Isaac from an injury standpoint, but I still think that's a good contract and worth gambling. Contract. Same thing with Fultz. So I don't think there's anything really here.
Yeah, I mean, to your point about the 2 trades, like if, again, they did something with Bledsoe and they got up from 19 to 10, does 21 and 10 get you to 8 and get you to take a swing at Kuminga? Do the Knicks want to take a swing at Kuminga? I don't know. If he's even there, maybe he goes. Right. With it. Okay.
7. Oh, so Golden State Warriors again. Well, we covered them. You said that you thought that the Warriors might flip the 7th pick. I'm curious if they will. Just the workout that they had, I think it was today or recently, where it was Duarte, Trey Murphy the third, Davion Mitchell,
Davion,
and there's one other player.
It was another guy up there. I'll look it up right now.
Yeah, so those 4 are definitely more in that 14 range.
Moses Moody, yeah,
right. Moody's more in the 7 range potentially, although who knows, it could fluctuate.
I think Moody is certainly in the 7 range. Yeah,
right. But I mean, if you're for the Warriors and you think the Knicks are trying to trade up ahead of you, are you going to trade your 7th overall pick so they can leapfrog you even more? I don't think you necessarily do. And I don't see what the advantage for the Warriors would be. Because if I'm the Warriors and I'm dropping from 7 to 19 and, they don't need more picks. They need more talent, and they find better talent towards the top of the draft. Although I think they should still be looking for great role players, because they don't even need stars. They just need players who can play really nicely off of Steph and Clay and Draymond.
Yep. Well said. Yeah, I don't think there's anything. I don't think the Knicks are getting the 7th pick in this draft.
This will be easy. This is the 6th pick. It's the Thunder again.
for the 4th time.
It's not happening, folks. The Thunder are even trying to move up into, 3-4 territory. So, the fact that Knicks would get up from 19 to 6 with the Thunder, the Thunder could blow them out of the water with their trades.
Yep.
5, Orlando Magic again. Hey, a similar situation. It seems like the Magic might like Scotty Barnes from what reports are saying, but then there's Kuminga. Maybe Suggs falls. Who knows? Trading out of the top 5.
This is
really
where you're
rare.
talking about how many future first round picks are the Knicks giving up.
Not just how many future first round picks. You're talking about who of, RJ, Mitch, Quickly, any of these other promising young pieces that you think would be there going into a package.
Yeah.
Again, like teams don't trade out of the top 5 unless they have 2 top 5 picks. Orlando does not have that. So maybe they trade down from 8. It probably, again, wouldn't be from 19 to 8. That's really steep of a drop. So, again, I think 5 is just out of the question, unfortunately.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
4, the Raptors. They have cap space, most likely, assuming Lowry leaves, and they might go after a big like Jared Allen. They have all their picks. Negative contract. I said Pascal Siakam, .mark, 3 years, $101 million, because I don't think it's a negative contract. Again, I think it's fine. The Warriors seem to be the team that is most mocked. I don't mean, jarringly, but penciled in as taking Siakam in some sort of trade because it fits more with what they're doing. But
that's interesting. Siakam to the Warriors. That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. You could even, give up 7. The Raptors have 4 and 7 and do their thing. So who knows? And then Wiggins goes home. I hadn't even considered that angle.
And Wiseman,
Jordan goes home.
And Wiseman goes to Canada. Very nice.
So no, the Knicks aren't going to be able to get something done here. It's just too tough. Unless it's RJ and more, as we just discussed. Yeah, and I don't think it's going to be RJ and more.
It's not going to be happening.
The Cavs. Cleveland's picking 3rd. They're likely to enter the season below the salary cap. They have all their picks. We coincidentally discussed Kevin Love and Taurean Prince on last week's podcast.
We did.
So I think we can just say no to Kevin Love and probably no to Taurean Prince, who again, they're not going to attach 3 to Prince and move him. It's going to be, I don't think they're moving 3, period. But if it were, it'd have to be with Kevin Love off the books.
Yeah, if you believe what you read, the Cavaliers may be trying to get up to 2. I don't think the Knicks help them. Well, no. But also, it wouldn't even just be 3 and Love for 19, 21, blah, blah, blah. It would be like the Knicks move up once again, and then they move up again and take on 3 and Love. And it's not going to work out. The problem is that the team, so if again, for shits and giggles, if you were like the Knicks take on or the Knicks give up 19 and 21 to Cleveland, and so Cleveland could use those picks to try to move up to 2 in some kind of crazy deal. The team that's at 2, reminder, as we're about to see, which why don't you just change the slide now, the Houston Rockets, who also have 23 and 24, so that they're not in the business of picking 4 times in the from 19 to 24,
right? Unless they're trying to trade up to 1, which they could.
That's it. We'll give you, well, in that case, they would swap with Cleveland. So let's see. The trade would be 3, 19, 21, 23.
I meant the Rockets or the Pistons, but yes, that would be absolutely absurd.
There you go. We'll give you 5 first round picks this year for Cade Cunningham. And one of them's the 3rd pick of the draft. That's interesting.
And they'd still say no because
probably
they just would. It'd have to, again, you'd have to get into the top 5, and then you'd have to basically figure out a way to get from 5 to 1 while also trying to fend off someone like OKC, which didn't have to do exactly the heavy lifting you did. So for one, again, the Pistons are probably going to have a little bit of money.
19 for 1. We'll take on Mason Plumlee. Who says no?
Us. That Mason Plumlee contract is so terrible for the Knicks. But yeah.
We wouldn't be able to re-sign Reggie Bullock.
The horror. So, we have now gone through the top 31 picks in the draft. And I feel like what we've come down to is an understanding that there may be 2 trades that work. It's not a whole lot, but listen, there are a lot of 3-team deals that can go on. The Knicks can be creative. Other teams can be creative. So I'm excited. I'm very nervous, but I'm excited because I trust the front office. And at the end of the day, we don't, there's so much we don't know about the draft. Yeah. So
I would just like to say again, so I have it on the record, if the Knicks somehow come out of this draft with a future first round pick, don't say I didn't tell you. That's all.
I won't. I'll be sure not to say that.
Okay, Andrew, anything else before we get out of here?
Yeah, I've got a mini producer's corner where
Please.
I want to ask you guys some questions about the presentation that Jeremy worked so hard to put together. The first big one of everything we just heard, what is something if you had, Jeremy, John's hypothetical $100 chip that he offered to Jonathan Wasserman, if you could bet on one thing that potentially could happen on Thursday, what would it be?
Oh, God. One thing?
Yeah.
Knicks related or just in general?
Knicks related.
Okay,
Knicks related.
I figured.
Hypothetical $100 chip, which we might end up looking at a real $100 chip that we bet in a couple weeks.
I'm torn between this. So I'm just going to say the Knicks. Can I say that the Knicks will wind up with one of two players? Is that acceptable?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. I think the Knicks will wind up with either Duarte or Isaiah Jackson.
Okay.
So them staying at 19 and 21. You don't see them trading?
I think that they would. I think they'll trade up. They'll figure out a way to trade up.
To get either one.
Right. And I think the idea of moving up for Jackson is, I like him as a prospect. I do. And I think, even though people might be skittish because he's a big, and you have Mitch there and all that, I still think there's a lot to like, and not just the CAA and Kentucky ties. But that's more for another time, I suppose. It's more the idea of with Jackson fitting with kind of what they go for, how good he is around the basket. And Duarte, again, I see him more as a day one guy. Looking at the free agent market for wings, I just don't think it's easy to do. So I just, I think Duarte is probably one of the guys they try to get.
John?
Or Jackson.
I think the Knicks take on, I'll go pretty specific. I think the Knicks take on a contract of a player for this league year. So a trade that gets executed on the night of the draft, as opposed to pushed out to the new league year.
Like who?
I don't know.
Eric Bledsoe, Colin Sexton.
It couldn't be Bledsoe because Bledsoe wouldn't fit into their space, and they would need to send out a player that's under contract for next year. And I don't think they want to do that. But I think they take on a player. Maybe it's Sexton. I could see it being Sexton. Sure, that wouldn't shock me. In some kind of a 3 or a 4 team deal. If we put a gun to my head right now, I that would be the name I would say, but I also think it's probably more likely that it's a player that is making, Jeremy wrote Marc Gasol's name, like a lower salary player that is just like a small, and I don't think there's going to be anything. Well, no, I guess Sexton would be kind of crazy. Yeah, I think they're just going to take on salary. That's it. I'll be
disappointed if they don't do that, honestly. Okay. I mean, again, the right deal has to materialize, but that seems like a prime opportunity. We'll see.
I think if you see somebody else do that, and it's like, why weren't the Knicks in on this? That's the frustration that we could see happening. The other question I have is, what do you want to happen? I think Jeremy already answered. And you like Jackson. You think he would be the guy you'd want the Knicks to trade up for if possible.
Oh, I don't necessarily want him to be the trade up candidate, but yes, I think
that's so what's your wish list for Thursday night as we sit 3 days away from the draft? I guess 4 days away from the draft. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe Moses Moody dropping, but I'm still worried about how he finishes at the rim. Duarte's grown on me a lot recently, but he seems to be growing on a lot of people. Maybe it's because he is shooting up the ranks. That's why he's more desirable. But, again, I mean, just I feel like the Knicks might go with an upperclassman with the first pick, whatever it might be, because he's more NBA ready and they could see that as a positive. So, yeah, I guess I'll go with that.
John?
The Knicks wind up one way or another with Keon Johnson. And I am saying that not because I necessarily think it would work out well for the Knicks. The notion of bringing a player along slowly who is going to need a lot of nurturing and love and care, and that's a 3-year plan type of deal. But just the notion that this front office would be bringing in a player that they know needs, is not going to play for them right away, needs some you need to have a great development program if you're going to bring that kid in and get the most out of him. Just the notion that they would be thinking along those lines and that they have the confidence in what they've built to be able to try to pull that off I would be very happy with them if that was their mindset.
All right, I lied. One more question.
Okay.
Around the league, what crazy hypothetical thing that could see realistically happening do you see happening on draft night? Whether it be a Bradley Beal trade, whether it be something smaller like, I guess, a Colin Sexton trade, a big name that could get traded on Thursday that we're getting John's hypothetical $100 chip.
Can it...
Jeremy,
you have one on the top of off the top of your head?
I mean, I'm thinking, I will say, and this is not the question, but it came to me. I think the fact also that, when the Jazz drafted Donovan Mitchell, it was a secret workout. So we're seeing a lot of names, but that could also be smokescreen. I saw that Sharif Cooper tweeted something about, it was like an emoji of just kind of like the shh face. Mm-hmm. So maybe that is a secret workout. You never know. And that's just his way of telling us. Tinfoil hat theory aside, I think the Warriors ultimately make a move for someone. I think that they'll trade the 7th pick. I think Siakam just makes a lot of sense. Siakam makes a lot of sense. I think the price for Beal will be too high for them, and I just at the end of the day think that they're not going to keep playing around. They have to show a commitment to winning, and they could probably save money doing that too. And then they don't have to worry about defending the Wiseman pick, because if they trade Wiggins, 7 and Wiseman, maybe that's too much for Siakam, but whatever. That is a championship team that's reinforced, and you get to say to Steph, we're still building around you. You're not going anywhere.
I would say no to that if I was Toronto. I think 7
Wiseman and Wiggins.
No, but they'll make the most of that pick. Yeah, no, they'll make the most of that 7th pick. Maybe 4 and 7 gets them to 3 if they want.
And Wiseman.
I just don't think Wiseman's very good.
I know you don't, but the league might.
Yeah, maybe. Okay, I will. This is batshit, but you asked for crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oklahoma City gives up something that you'll read it in terms of the pick package, and you'll have to do a double or a triple take. So I don't know what 8 future first round picks to move up. I don't know, to get the guy they want, and I don't know who they want. But just to move up, not to 1. I don't think 1's on the table. I could see it being for as high as 2. I could see Houston doing something like
SGA and Mobley.
That's not bad. Good.
I could see more Green. I could see them talking themselves into we have our top 2 for the next decade, and I could see what do you call it? Who's the GM? Raphael Stone going to Fertitta and being like, look at all this that I got you. It's bound to work out. Yeah.
Oh boy.
We'll see. I don't know.
All right. Well, if you'd like to hear more of our thoughts from outside the Knicks and around the league, for just $7 a month, head over to Patreon, and we'll be dropping multiple podcasts over the next couple weeks. Some from Las Vegas, although fingers crossed that people in Las Vegas cooperate with this thing called a pandemic that we're still in. That's all I got. Good show today, guys.
Great show. Jeremy, again, hats off. Not a cap. Not cap. Hats off to you, Jeremy.
Thank you.
And everybody,
hold on. Have you been waiting to say that joke? Because that was really good.
It was I just thought of it on the top of my head.
It was really good.
Literally, I swear on my kids.
I'm gonna call cap on that. I think they had it in your head for a while.
You're a writer, my friend. That was good.
On that note, now that we're all delirious, thank you for listening to another episode of the Knicks Film School Podcast. We will be back with you with more content, talking about all of the ways in which we got everything wrong that we just talked about on this podcast very soon.